the relationship is not as strong as it once was. And I've sort of, as I've observed Meghan over time, I think sometimes she becomes overbearing to people, especially to those who she thinks she can get something from, private jets, a house, or whatever. And because the negative attention follows her so often, that it impacts other people. And people who are in the entertainment industry, they don't want that negative attention.
Breaking right now, Prince Harry and Meghan Markle furious as Prince William chooses to go to Paris for the opening of the Notre Dame Cathedral and get close with their sworn enemy, Donald Trump, a man who has even discussed the possibility of deporting the Duke of Sussex from the USA for lying on his immigration forms. Analysis with Brittany, editor of the Royal News Network, in just one moment. But first, let's look at the delightful moment where William meets Trump, and it was very, very clear these two are going to be close.
He's a good man, this one. Hello, everybody. He's doing a fantastic job. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
Oh, Brittany, what did you make of it?
Oh, I loved it. I thought it was great because obviously Donald Trump is going to be the president of the United States, and William is very much fulfilling his role there as a future head of state. He is there in place of Charles. He's there to represent the British government. So I think they had a very warm interaction, and I think it sets a great precedence for the future. We know Donald Trump loves the royal family. He really enjoyed his state visit. So I'm sure he's like really hoping for another one with Charles now as king. But I feel like Donald Trump and William got along pretty well there. And obviously, William has to be very careful if he's not a fan, not to let on to that too much. But I think the interaction with them overall was very, very warm and friendly. And I think it was really, really exciting to see William there and William really stepping up onto the world stage as an international leader in many ways.
Yeah, no, totally agree. The thing is, though, Brittany, he didn't have to go to Notre Dame. This was making a real point. It was head of states that were invited, but obviously Charles, who's still suffering from cancer, of course, didn't go. William could have made the decision not to, but he did. It was an important moment, of course. This was a big deal for Macron. But the fact that there was this unilateral meeting with William, that William was so delighted to see him in the cathedral, is quite extraordinary, Brittany, given the context. And the context is you're wanting to deport my brother. I mean, there were some hilarious memes, actually. I think I've got a couple of them.
Yeah, I saw some of those too. They were excellent.
That's very funny. I'm deporting Harry. Please don't, because he doesn't want him back. And there's another one from Meghan's mole, actually, which made the point of Trump saying to William, your brother deserved the dog bowl. And that's, of course, referencing the story in Spare. But this is significant because it's almost inevitable that Harry would have come up in that unilateral meeting. And that is what other royal insiders like Ingrid Seward, the editor of Majesty magazine, have been reporting today. Brittany, do you think that's the case?
I mean, he might have come up as a small factor. Of course, there are so many other big things going on in the world in between the United States and United Kingdom. So I would hope that more important topics of conversation came up beyond Prince Harry, because obviously there's so many other issues those in the United States wish probably that Donald Trump would get to first over Harry. But I imagine he definitely did come up because I think definitely when it comes to Prince Harry and Meghan Markle, their sort of cosplay royal routine, they were allowed to sort of do that under the last administration and nobody really raised any eyebrows. I think that'll really grate on Donald Trump and that administration. And so I don't think they can play the same cosplay royal routine without any repercussions in the new administration because Donald Trump and his team is going to go, hey, wait a second. We are the head of state. We are the government here, not you two. We don't even know what you two are doing. So you need to stop that now. If not, we'll obviously go to the next steps because Harry and Meghan, again, the danger and the weird thing they do is trying to be royals here, but they're not royals in the United States. They are simply cosplay royals. They are simply sort of a weird group of celebrity, and they need to sort of stick in that lane rather than just trying to recreate what they had in the UK here. Because, I mean, they've told us time and time again, they hated the UK, they hated royal life. Why are they trying to redo it here? So I think it'll be interesting to see how the Donald Trump administration deals with Harry and Meghan. I mean, again, I hope that it's not high on the list of priorities, but it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out as well.
Harry will view it as a major betrayal, though, Brittany, because you know how Harry thinks. He is constantly looking for reasons to be angry with his brother. And my belief is that this pushed all of those buttons.
Well, I mean, you got to think too when it comes to the picture of the four generations. So Queen Elizabeth, King Charles, Prince William, Prince George, and apparently Prince William got really, sorry, Prince Harry got really frustrated over that. And then you have the Christmas picture where it was, I think, just Charles and Camilla, and then a picture of the Waleses family. And Harry was incensed by that. So it was obvious, though, that what the Queen was trying to do at the time was reflect the continuity of the monarchy. And yet, Harry took that as an offense when he really didn't need to take that as offense. So, of course, he might be miffed by that, but this is William's job. William's job as a future head of state is to really have this great relationship with world leaders. And we don't know what Queen Elizabeth really thought about a lot of the world leaders she interacted with because her job was to, no matter who it was, host them with dignity, host them with respect. That way, the royals, what they do is they sort of grease the wheels between the ruling government, whoever actually has the policy power, and the foreign government. So they're there to be that soft arm of diplomacy. And so William, of course, it is his job to go meet with Donald Trump. Prince Harry should not be mad at that. But
He will be.
of course,
He will be.
reality doesn't
Totally.
hit
Because
very well.
you've absolutely made the correct point. I broke the story of Megxit nearly 5 years ago, actually, 5 years ago next month. And it was in my initial story, Brittany, where I was briefed by sources close to Prince Harry that he was absolutely livid about that picture that you refer to, absolutely livid about this so-called snub from the late Queen. Utterly ridiculous. As you say, it was an historic moment for the Queen to show that the succession was strong. Charles, William, George. It wasn't some sort of personal slight against Harry. As you can imagine, two different views from both ends of the political spectrum about the Trump and William growing special relationship. Narinder Kaur wrote, "This is the moment you know William is not at all ready to become a king. His father, despite all his flaws, at least acts like he's the king and people flock to him, same as the late Queen. William acting like some competition winner is really cringy." So her views seem to be, Brittany, that William was too kind to Donald Trump.
Oh, I think that's crazy. I think they had just a general conversation. If you actually watch the entire video where Donald Trump meets with Prince Albert real quick, Queen Matilda, King Philippe, and then the Grand Duke Henri and Grand Duchess Maria Theresa, in that line before getting to William, they all had very general positive interactions, it appeared like, because they're on the world stage. They know the cameras are on them, so they're not going to be rude or anything. But this is what royals are supposed to do. If they have personal feelings about a politician, if they are not a fan, that's something to maybe share with their spouse and probably nobody else, because their job is to put this great face forward and to have a really positive relationship. And it seemed like, to me, from what I could tell, Donald Trump had a positive interaction with every single royal there, other politicians as well. And obviously, people have their opinions on Donald Trump, which seem to range in the extremes. But this is exactly what William is supposed to be doing. And although he is not the head of state yet, he is a future head of state. And so he may have a relationship, and he'll have a relationship for as long as his life continues with the United States in sort of a diplomatic capacity. And so William was enacting and fulfilling that role instead of his father and on behalf of the British government. He was there representing the British people. I think it was even King Henry, I think maybe even the fifth, who was actually crowned in the Notre Dame Cathedral. And so you have a very strong relationship between the French and the English going back many centuries. And so it was very appropriate for a member of the British monarchy to be there. And I think it looked like a fantastic event and a fantastic opportunities for some of these world leaders to interact and continue to grow and develop their relationships.
Indeed, and especially at the moment, Brittany, because relations between the new UK government and the incoming US government are so terrible. I mean, David Lammy, the UK's Foreign Secretary, had previously described Donald Trump as a neo-Nazi. So I think Lady Colin Campbell summed up the other side of the coin best when she wrote on X, the meeting between Kensington Royal Prince William and President-elect Donald Trump demonstrates, as nothing else can, how lucky we are to have a constitutional monarchy instead of a republic. After the way the present British government has traduced the incoming president, it is highly unlikely we would have had the possibility of a good relationship with our main ally had Trump had to work solely with the raw material of the Starmer government. This is particularly true as regards the Foreign Secretary David Lammy, who wasn't only vitriolic but personally offensive in the unprofessional way only a sanctimonious ignoramus can be. God, I love Lady C. Thank God we have a royal family which understands how government as well as diplomacy and foreign policy should be conducted. We are also lucky that Trump, the son of a Scotswoman, represents the monarchy and that both he and the royals understand why honey brings rewards, vinegar can't. But Brittany, I want to talk about the rest of William's weekend now, because it was actually extraordinary. He is coming into his own as a leader in so many ways. So let's rewind first to the Carols concert, Catherine's Carols concert on Friday night, which was just the most beautiful event. The whole family was there. And do you remember, Brittany, earlier this year, this was only a dream, really, to imagine that Catherine would be healthy enough to host the event, have all of her family there, and it was just so special.
It was really a fantastic event. Obviously, many people, you're right, did have questions about whether or not this would go on. It's become, I think, a really iconic date within sort of the royal calendar and the Christmas time to have this Carols event. And I think it's something that Catherine has become really, really passionate about as well. And I felt like this year, and I can't quite remember the exact phraseology, but something to the effect of, coming alongside people is sort of the theme for this Christmas Carols event. And I think that's something she felt very intimately this year because she had to rely on her husband, on her children, on her family to support her through this very difficult medical diagnosis. And I think once she reached Christmas time, there's sort of a special emotion that comes with that. And so I think she is very grateful for this year, looking forward to the future, and yet also still recovering, still getting her strength back, still sort of reorienting herself after such a challenging year. And I think William has been a very strong force by her side. And I'm looking forward to seeing her more in 2025. It's been a very strange year without Catherine, but so grateful and amazing to see her doing so
Indeed.
incredibly well.
Indeed, but don't you think, Brittany, that Prince William has come into his own? Because think about how big this weekend was for him. Friday night, the Carols concert, his whole family there. Catherine's biggest event of the year. Saturday, straight to Notre Dame, where the eyes of the world are on him, specifically that meeting with Trump. Sunday, back to one of his passion projects, homelessness, where he was absolutely at home, making the food, making jokes, really connecting with people. And it's almost like sometimes, Brittany, you think he has the best of Charles, his father, but also Diana, because look at the hugs and everything. There's an ease in the way that he is conducting his business at the moment. And I actually think there's an ease that he has had since having to do much more on his own following Catherine's diagnosis. What's really interesting is my royal insiders say, rather than crumble, he actually took a lot of strength from going out, meeting the public, and he has really enjoyed these solo engagements. But first, we've partnered with Gundry MD to share this information with you. Would you believe me if I told you inside your pantry right now is one of the healthiest foods on the planet? Yep, it's true, and it's not some weird, trendy superfood. Spoiler alert, It's olive oil. You've probably used it for cooking, but there are countless ways to use olive oil to help yourself look and feel younger. For example, olive oil is a natural way to help you achieve a more youthful appearance. Besides helping you look younger on the outside, it's a fantastic tool for your insides as well. According to Dr. Stephen Gundry, a famous cardiothoracic surgeon, nutrition expert, and health advocate, you should get as much high quality olive oil into your daily routine as possible. Whether it's taking a shot of it daily or keeping a bottle of it in your bathroom medicine cabinet. But what kind of olive oil is best for your health, I hear you ask? Well, any olive oil can give you some benefits. But if you're looking to get the best results, it matters a lot which one you pick. And the olive oil industry is really huge. You can tell, you will have seen in the supermarkets, so many brands. And you can bet they're not all made with the consumer in mind. And many brands may even cut corners one way or another to increase profits. So when Dr. Gundry came to that realization, he was rightly appalled. But some olive oils are so powerful, it may only take a few tablespoons a week to see these incredible health benefits. So, how can you tell between an olive oil that can be a health booster and one which isn't up to par? In an effort to answer that question for us, Dr. Gundry has decided to take a stand and release his personal research and findings. This video has gone viral since its release, and it's important you see it so you can start benefiting immediately. So you can watch the video right now by heading to getolive1.com/outspoken, or you can just click on the link in the description box below. I'll repeat it for you though. That's getolive1.com/outspoken, or just click on the link in the description box below. People who have taken his advice have shared their results with him, saying the olive oil they bought after learning his simple rules have helped change their life for the better. So make sure you go to getolive1.com/outspoken or click on the link in the description box below this video. But now, back to the show.
Yeah, it's great to see him continue to grow into this role because I think obviously after Her Majesty's death, it was a time period where they were all sort of figuring out how the dominoes would fall because Queen Elizabeth had been such a forebearer, a standard in the royal family for so long that to adjust was going to take some time. But I feel like William has definitely come into his own this year. He's really starting to grow and develop his role as the Prince of Wales. We have his homelessness project, Homewards, going on and continuing to grow. He's continuing to sort of adjust how the Duchy of Cornwall works. And so he's had these great successes and a couple of huge things this weekend. A family event, obviously led up by his wife in many ways, where he is there as a support, and then going on to the world stage and being a world leader, or in some ways a future world leader as he is at the Notre Dame reopening service, and then going and doing a charity project and encouraging those around him. I think is just so great to see him doing so well despite the challenges. And sometimes when you have a family crisis like this, it forces you to grow in different ways that you wouldn't necessarily anticipate, but can really develop into a just a really strong sense of purpose. And I think that's what William is feeling since Catherine's diagnosis and going through this whole process. And obviously, you have the grief as well for the loss of his grandmother just a couple of years ago, and his grandfather and his father going through his own cancer diagnosis. That William is really finding that purpose of finding the role within the royal family that he wants to play and continuing to develop and grow it in really strong ways. And so I look forward to seeing how he continues to change up not only how the role as the Prince of Wales works, but maybe what new projects he and Catherine might add. I think we'll see that continue to ramp up and grow and grow and grow as him and Catherine ease more and more into this post cancer life, and hopefully as well their roles as the Prince and Princess of Wales.
It hasn't been a good beat weekend for Meghan Markle, however, as there is growing speculation that she was asked not to appear on stage with her apparent BFF, Tyler Perry, at the Paley Centre Honours. Quite extraordinarily, you'll see there were huge names up on that stage: Kerry Washington, Oprah Winfrey, but Meghan, who had gladly stolen the spotlight from Tyler on the red carpet, was not given that role. Brittany from the Royal News Network, this was very shocking and very embarrassing for Meghan, given she is on the committee of this event, but wasn't on stage with Tyler Perry. Yet Oprah was, Kerry Washington was.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm always cautious until I can watch the full event myself because sometimes camera angles and everything sort of impact what you can see. But I found it really interesting to watch sort of her interaction with Tyler Perry on the red carpet because he seemed, I wouldn't say super engaged with her, super excited to interact with her. Once they had taken their pictures, he was like, I want to go over here. And I think they were just moving to take additional pictures at a different angle. But you have the as well the Times of London article where they he is asked about Harry and Meghan, and he had this very kind of biting response to the Times journalist. And I think he was probably not it was probably an interaction that he should have done a bit better in terms of PR, but at the same time, you can't help but think, associating with Harry and Meghan tends to bring negative attention, negative impacts on you because you're associated with them and they have a huge negative public reputation. And whether or not you're attached to that, once you're with them, that negative attention the two of them have tends to follow you. And it seemed to me as well that Tyler Perry did not understand that the Times of London was not a tabloid. It's actually a very respectable publication, sort of like the New York Times. He seemed to think that it was more akin to something like the Daily Mail, which it obviously is not. But I don't think he is super enthused by some of aspects of his relationship with Harry and Meghan because I think in some ways as well Meghan can be very demanding. Obviously, he lent them his home. In some instances, it might have been a security team. He lent them his jet. And so he's lent them a lot of things. And you got to wonder sometimes if they start to ask for too much. And he's like, let's calm it down. But I don't think he was probably really wanting her on stage because her being there, all the attention goes to her. And it was his night. And I'm sure he was not happy to have any of his attention stolen there.
Indeed. And I think it's really worth taking a closer look at this Sunday Times article, actually, that
Mm.
you talk about, Brittany. So this is how the Daily Mail, of course, wrote it
Exactly.
up. Meghan Markle's billionaire friend Tyler Perry gives frosty answer when asked about lending the Duchess of Sussex his LA home. But actually, when you read what he said, it was incredibly, incredibly awkward. Asked about how
Mhm.
he helped prepare the Duke and Duchess for their move to America, Perry shot back at the interviewer, I didn't. The Times noted that any conversational intimacy evaporated as Perry bristled at the questions about Meghan. He said, Meghan is from California. She knows California well, so there was nothing to prepare them for. But what I will say this, what I learned about mentioning them, because there's this insatiable appetite to know all about them, is that any question that is asked becomes the headline of anything I say. When asked why the appetite for news about the couple is so insatiable, Perry said he doesn't pay attention to the media. You're from the UK. You tell me, he fired back in the tense clash. Then the interviewer reminded him the headlines are just as plentiful across the pond, and Perry fired off another acid tongued reply. You think? Well, you would know better than I would because I'm not paying attention to that world. The Times said at that point in the discussion, it was clearly time to cut to the next scene as Perry was in no mood to discuss his relationship with Meghan. But the thing is, Brittany, this is a big 180. And this is the awful thing about Hollywood stars. Let's just be honest about it, because he had absolutely no problem talking about Harry and Meghan in 2022 when he appeared in the Netflix documentary. Now, 2022, we'd all made our decision about Harry and Meghan. Everyone knew what Harry and Meghan were like. So there has been a change. There has been, let's just be honest about it, a cooling of the relationship. And this is something that often happens when high profile people get to know the real Meghan Markle.
Absolutely. Once they start to get to know her, things seems to change. And it seems like especially in that article, Tyler Perry is just like, I'm done. I don't want to talk about them anymore. But at the same time, he gave them a headline that the Daily Mail could spin. So he kind of did the antithesis of seemingly what he wanted to do in the first place. But it seems like the relationship is not as strong as it once was. And I've sort of as I've observed Meghan over time, I think sometimes she becomes overbearing to people, especially to those who she thinks she can get something from, private jets, a house, or whatever. And because the negative attention follows her so often, that it impacts other people. And people who are in the entertainment industry, they don't want that negative attention. And then you also have the issue of Harry and Meghan have been pretty much outright failures when it comes to producing content. And so, do you really want to be associated that much with somebody who's such an obvious failure? Because in the entertainment industry, it's a pretty small community. They all talk. They know how bad things are. And it seems like Netflix, I mean, they haven't even promoted Polo, which drops tomorrow. You got to think as like, do they care? Are they not promoting it because Harry and Meghan don't want to? Like, what's going on? Or have they just given up and going, well, we know it's not going to do well. We're not even going to put any money or energy behind that. And so Harry and Meghan are just sort of a dark cloud over anyone they associate with. And I'm sure Perry was frustrated as well that the Times of London was interviewing him. And one of maybe the first questions was, hey, what about Harry and Meghan? He's like, you're supposed to be talking about me. This is my event, my thing. But to people across the pond, I would imagine that's the way they know him is that once you're with Harry and Meghan, once you had that tie, people just go back to that again and again and again. So Tyler seems to be somewhat, in some ways, sort of distancing himself from them.
Indeed. And again, there was this photo of Oprah Winfrey and Meghan Markle, which the Paley Center posted on its Instagram account. But speculation that Meghan wasn't actually sitting at the table next to him, because if you look at the name tags on the fans, his name is on it, hers is not. And again, Oprah, I think, would not have been happy with this photo because she has been desperate to try and distance herself from Meghan, hasn't she?
Yeah, I mean, none of them are really mentioning Harry and Meghan too much. You have Oprah Winfrey as well, who's had a bit of her own problems with all the kerfluffle over the $1 million that was allegedly given to her by the Kamala Harris campaign during the election to put on some sort of show type thing with celebrities. And so you get the sense that although everybody keeps in Hollywood, everybody keeps sort of their relationship options open, you could say, because you never know when somebody's going to hit it big and you might need them for something. But at the same time, you just don't get the sense that Oprah Winfrey or Tyler Perry are really associating with Meghan all that much. Yes, she still goes to some parties because I think she went to a Tyler Perry party with Harry around Harry's birthday. So they're sort of still in the same circles. But you got to think too, they're like keeping them close, but not too close is how I would read the situation. And it's interesting to see Harry and Meghan go through this, but they sort of set themselves up for failure in so many ways. And I'm sure Oprah is disappointed with the reaction to the interview she did with them, or they're just all waiting
She should
for,
be.
hey, the moment
She
Harry
should
and
be,
Meghan's
because
divorce, they
Oprah
get
Winfrey
something.
has lost all credibility.
Mhm.
All credibility.
Yeah.
But what is interesting, if you look at the Paley Center and their posts on this, Brittany, Meghan features, but she features as sort of the red carpet bird. And then when it comes to actually who gives the speech, you can see it's Oprah. And there she is on stage. I think that's alongside Kerry Washington. And it's very telling. It's very, very telling.
It is.
And as you say, it's a big sign that Meghan's stock, her stock price has tumbled. Hollywood is a brutal industry. It's not a kind industry. I mean, I reported on the entertainment industry for years and years and years. They don't want to be connected to the failure of Meghan Markle. That's what it comes down to.
Thank you so much for watching Dan Wootton Outspoken. Please click on my face just to the bottom left to subscribe to this brand new independent news source and turn on the notification bell so you'll be alerted to our brand new live shows, uncancelled interviews, and special royal episodes. Outspoken is also now available as a podcast, so you can listen to the show every weekday on the go, wherever you are.